When I was 8 years old, my dad got a job offer at a hospital in Columbus, Ohio. So we packed up and moved. And to me, this was a fresh start, a chance to make new friends, a chance to meet new people, and a chance to start over. When I was going to school in Indianapolis, um, I was attending a Catholic school, so my parents wanted to continue my schooling in the Catholic school system because they felt that religious people would be more tolerant and more forgiving of my learning challenges and my behavior issues and my social issues. Back then, I really didn't understand the concept of religion. All I knew is that it had been something that had been instilled in me from an early age. And also, the kids that I went to school with back in Indy said a lot of mean and hurtful things about me. And it was just something that I was expected to just go with. Um, so when my parents said that they wanted me to continue my schooling at a Catholic school, I didn't know how to say no. So I just went along with it because I just thought that's what was expected of me. So I remember my first day of second grade walking into my new classroom and the teacher introducing me to this little girl who immediately I was very aware that she looked very similar to me. She was very cute, long black hair, glasses, very quiet and shy, but she was very sweet, a very sweet girl. And I thought that we would hit it off right away. And at first we did. Um, and we just kind of made small talk, and she tried to introduce me to her other friends. Um, and I thought, this is awesome. I'm finally going to be able to make friends and get to know people and just kind of leave everything behind in Indianapolis that I went through. As the weeks went on, um, I started hearing comments being made behind my back, to the effect of, oh, well, the only reason why the teacher wanted to introduce this girl to Jessie. Back then it was Jessica. I hadn't started going by Jessie yet, but the only reason why the teacher wanted to introduce this little girl to Jessica is because they're both Asian. And they're the only two Asians in this class. When I heard those things, at first it didn't register. Like, I didn't understand what that meant. Um, I didn't understand the implications of that. Um, because to me, it was just like, well, why would the teacher discriminate? Why would the teacher purposely put us together just because we're Asians? That didn't make sense to me. It really didn't. I think from like the moment that the teacher introduced me to this little girl, I just kind of attached myself to her hip because she felt like kind of like a safe place, I guess. And me being me, I think I really wanted to be liked and accepted by her and her friends. So um, the old behaviors came out where I would just try really hard. And they eventually got pushed away. And this little girl tried really hard to let me know in her own way that she didn't want to continue hanging out with me. And of course, I didn't understand that, which made me like try even harder, which pushed them away more. So, um, my old behaviors in Indy kind of came back to haunt me in Columbus and at the school. And pretty quickly, uh, not only did my class figure out that, like, hey, this girl is someone to kind of steer clear of, word slowly got around to the rest of the school that, hey, there's this new girl that started here who's kind of a problem kid. She's different, and we just don't want to have anything to do with her. And of course, on top of that, there were my attention issues, inability to focus, blah, 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 that came out in the classroom. So my teachers, um, had to have conferences with my parents every so often. And by every so often, I feel like it was at least once a week where they had to talk to my parents like, hey, Jessica is forgetting her homework. She's not performing well on her assignments. She's missing things. We need to kind of talk about this and figure out what's going on. My teacher put in place a notebook system where I had to have my parents sign my notebook every night saying that I had completed assignments and that they had seen my work. And of course, my assignments would come back with like zeros and F's because it was, I just struggled because of my struggles. And people didn't understand what was going on. So whenever I would bring home assignments like that, which was pretty often, my parents would have their own ways of disciplining me. I remember that one of the ways that my dad would handle it, because he was a very proud man, same as my mom, very traditional Asians, all about bringing honor to the family, and anything else that would bring embarrassment or shame was looked down upon, and had to be dealt with. So I remember whenever I would bring home papers with bad marks, or my parents would receive bad reports from my teachers, my dad would load me in the car, with my brother at the time. I was 8, so he would have been 3. My dad would load me and my brother in the car and my mom and drive to an abandoned parking lot at night. And he would tell me to get out of the car. And he would leave me there and drive away. And I just remember a lot of times just standing there alone in the parking lot at night and just crying and just wondering if my parents were going to come back for me, if they had left me because I was so bad. It felt like, to me, like hours that I was there. As I got older and was able to talk about it with my parents, they told me it was only for 1 or 2 minutes at a time. But for someone that young to be dropped off at an abandoned parking lot at night because she missed some assignments and the teachers told my parents that I was bad, that I was a problem kid. Like, I mean, honestly, like, I had no idea why my parents would do that. You know, like, I didn't know, like, what kind of parents would do that to their kid. And I think that's where a lot of my, um, I mean, it felt like abandonment. You know, it really did. And even to this day, like, when I find someone that I attach myself to, it, I just really, I'm scared to be left alone. I'm scared that people will leave me, even to this day. Um, and of course, it manifests itself differently now, but looking back, I can see that what happened to me as a kid is the root of that issue. So, being driven to abandoned parking lots and being left there was something that happened quite frequently until I finally wised up and figured out that as long as my parents don't see this notebook, then I should be okay. So I learned to sign my parents' name in my notebook and try to pass it off to my teachers. My grandmother was also living with us at the time, my mom's mom, and a lot of times I would have my grandmother, who didn't read any English, so she didn't know what was happening. I would trick her into signing it, just so my parents wouldn't see it, and so I wouldn't get left at a parking lot. Of course, my teachers were wiser than I was, so they knew immediately what was happening. So, of course, my parents get called, and, you know, my dad has to discipline me. You know, so there's the spankings, the whippings, the lashings, and he had started this new thing where he would. So we had a little utility room in the basement of our house in Columbus. It was a fairly small room. We had a refrigerator in there, a chest freezer, and there was also a small door to a crawl space. But other than that, it was just small and dark. And what my dad had started doing was taking me and dragging me in that room, throwing me in that room in the pitch dark, and he would tape off the light switch so I couldn't turn it on, and he would hold the door shut and leave me in there. And I would scream and scream and scream. And to this day, I am terrified of dark enclosed spaces because of what my dad did. And I have not overcome that fear. As a almost 42-year-old woman, I have not completely overcome that fear. And if I am put in a small enclosed space, I will hyperventilate and have a panic attack. Around this time, I also started taking piano lessons, which was so fun for me. And I just loved it. It was a way of escape for me. I really found that music was therapeutic. So it was something I really enjoyed. So I played the piano from the time I was 8 till I was about 14 or 15. And I played everything from classical music to Broadway show tunes to TV theme songs. And I just really enjoyed it. It was something that I found so therapeutic and I could escape. It was like an escape for me. And it was an escape for my parents too. They really enjoyed hearing me play. And whenever my dad would get upset or frustrated, he would ask me to play for him. And at first, it was just, you know, Jessica, can you play a little bit of piano for me, to help me de-stress, which wasn't an issue. But then it turned into a form of punishment in which when I would do something that he didn't like, or whenever he would get a bad report from school, he would ask me to go play for 1 or 2 hours at a time because it was the one thing that I did that didn't disappoint him when everything else I did disappointed him. And he was not afraid to let me know how much I disappointed him. So because of everything that was going on at home, my behaviors at school escalated. And it got to the point where I had to start seeing a school counselor for my behavior issues and my attention problems. And there was something that they had at the school called the van, which was intervention. So I would go, I want to say like a few times a week to see the teacher there. And get specialized help in social skills and whatever else they thought that I needed help in. And of course, my classmates saw me leaving to go there. So names such as retard and stupid and dumb would pop up in conversation behind my back. And then because I was wearing glasses at the time, they decided to throw names such as Four Eyes. Oh, look at Four Eyes, like going to the van, what a retard. She's so retarded that she has to go see like this special teacher, So that's when the name calling started there. And then this slowly escalated into the derogatory name calling. So the derogatory names such as chink and slant eyes and gook would come up too. So it was like everything that I thought I had left behind in Indy was coming back to haunt me, like 10 times worse. And I felt like, again, I was in this cycle that I couldn't get out of. So around this time, the school counselor had suggested to my parents that I get put on a medication for hyperactivity called Ritalin. So now not only was I leaving a few times a week to go to the van to get social skills intervention, on top of my behavior issues in the classroom, on top of my problems at home, now I had to go see the school nurse once or twice a day to get my medication. So I feel like all of that just added more fuel to the fire for my classmates to make fun of me for. At first, the school counselor had brought up concerns to my parents about cognitive delays. But then he administered an IQ test, which showed that I had above average IQ. So that immediately put to rest the cognitive delay theory. So then the questions were raised. Okay, well, she's not cognitively delayed, but she's struggling in the classroom. So what is going on here? they didn't understand the discrepancy. And at the end of second grade, we had to do standardized testing. The Ohio achievement tests, I believe. No, I think the California achievement test is what they were called. The CAT test. It was a standardized test that everyone had to take. And when I got my scores back, they found that I scored in the 99th percentile in language arts and reading. So that was a head scratcher for them, because they're like, this girl is a smart cookie, but she is struggling in the classroom. So now what? What do we do with this? The school counselor told my parents about this accelerated reading group that my school had, and he suggested that my parents sign me up for it. So they signed me up for it, and it was a group that met, I want to say, twice a week after school, and we would just read books. And even though I was in second grade, these books were like 6th, 7th grade level, and I ate them up. I enjoyed them so much. And these books, they just opened up a whole new world for me. And that really started my love for reading. So in second grade, I was reading 6th grade, 7th grade level books. And my counselor saw how much I enjoyed this. So he actually suggested I take accelerated classes. Because I think he started to figure out, I think this girl isn't being challenged enough, is why she's having these attention difficulties and why she's so up and down, why she can't focus, because the material isn't challenging her. So he wanted to see me in accelerated classes. My classroom teacher immediately shot that down, because she said because of my attention issues that I would not do well in them. And because my teacher did not think that I would do well in these accelerated classes, I felt like I was not able to live up to my potential. I felt like I was cheated out of that. Which is why, as a teacher now in my profession, I push my students to the best of their ability. I want my students to excel. And that is something that I instill in every single one of my students. Is I don't care who tells you that you can't do it. I believe in you, and you need to believe in yourself, because that was something that I didn't get early on.